Support for Radio Friends comes from Columbia Healthy Smiles, the dental office of husband and wife team Dr. Batson and Dr. Abe, offering comprehensive and customized care to patients of all ages. Learn more by calling 573-721-9039 or online at www.columbiahealthysmiles.com. Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on this Wednesday, July the 5th. Good to have you with us today. I've got one of my favorite people here. Comes into the studio, it always makes me laugh, Joe Dillard. Good to have you here, Joe Dillard.
Thank you.
You've written how many books?
At least three.
3 books.
Yeah.
And you've got today with you the Blue Mound Chronicles.
Right.
There is one chapter in that book that is very special to you. It's what?
It's the story of Wayne Powers, who was from Blue Mound and one of the more infamous or famous people from there, other than me.
Right. Of course, you were the most famous. But Wayne Powers was a deserter in the military.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story, and Brock, you brought your friend Brock Jones with you.
This is Brock Jones. He's the co-author of the book and wrote that specific chapter.
Okay.
And he's my third best friend.
Your third best friend.
Darling Betty, Paul Pepper, Brock Jones.
Okay. I'm glad I'm in there. But anyway, you'd like to have a movie made of
Yes.
this. And it really is an interesting story. You've expressed it down to about a 2-minute synopsis here,
Yeah.
Brock. So if you'll go ahead and read that, now listen close, because this tells the story of a guy during the war, the Wayne Powers story.
Yeah, it comes from Joe's book, The Blue Mound Chronicles, and it includes a chapter, Wayne Powers' Choice, Love Over Country. Wayne Powers was born 1 mile north of Blue Mound. That's where Joe grew up. He was drafted in the Army in 1943 and arrived in France 1 week after D-Day on June 6, 1944. And he became a deserter. He fell in love with a woman. Her name was Yvette. Started living with her in a small French town. And the crazy thing was he was caught and escaped 3 separate times. Always went back to live with her. After the last escape, which was after the war in 1946, he made a hiding place under a stairwell that he could go to if the police came. Meanwhile, he and Yvette had 5 children while he hid in the house. In 1956, a week after his 5th child, Freddie, was born, there was a car wreck outside his house, and he looked out the window, and he was seen by a policeman. They intensified their investigation and finally sent in a squad of police in 1958. This is full 13 years after the war. They searched the whole house and found Wayne in a hiding place under a stairwell. And so he was sent to a court-martial where he was subject to a 10-year hard labor sentence. Well, you might think the story would end there, but newspapers and a radio station got hold of the story. In their telling of it, complete with photos of the 5 children and the stairwell hiding place, Wayne had been hiding under the stairs for 13 years. That's not really true, but that's what they said. As you can imagine, that caught the public's interest, and they pointed out he could get a 10-year sentence. The radio station asked listeners to send letters to President Eisenhower. These are French people sending letters to President Eisenhower to ask them to let Wayne go. It became an international incident. The first day, 15,000 letters came. By the end, between 55,000 and 100,000 letters arrived. During the court-martial, despite a plea arrangement that would have given Wayne only a 6-month sentence, the president of the court-martial gave him 10 years. But the next day, undoubtedly under pressure from above, high above, the sentence was commuted to time served. They let Wayne Powers go, and he returned one more time to Yvette.
That really is an interesting story, and it would make a very good movie. You just got to find somebody that's interested in making that movie.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe somebody listening today, or they spread the word, then they'll contact you. So,
So, Paul, I kind of glossed over the fact he escaped 3 times.
he escaped 3 times?
He escaped 3 times, and each of those escapes is extremely dramatic. So those are like points in a movie that would be just phenomenal.
Yeah.
The first time he was caught by the CID, which is the Criminal Investigations Division, and he was taken to be interrogated, and they beat him up. They thought he was a German spy, and then they decided he's not a German spy, and they didn't care that he was a deserter. All they cared about was whether he was a German spy or not. So they said, "Go back to your unit," and he went back to that. That's just one of the 3.
So how did you come about with all this research?
Well, this is the best part, really. Joe had gotten hold of Wayne Powers' granddaughter, Marjorie Leroy, and she had Opera Mundi text that Wayne Powers had written that had the whole story laid out. And nobody around here knows about it, but she sent it to Joe and said, "Joe, if you can get this out there, please do." And it's all first person describing what had happened to him.
His feelings, when he was having to hide under the stairs
So,
when the doctors were delivering the babies.
Yeah, the doctor was delivering his baby while he was hiding under the steps.
And he was hiding under the steps the whole time.
As it was happening. Yeah, there's a lot of detail in here that I couldn't get into with my quick synopsis.
Where it first started, I was doing research on Blue Mound, and I got an email from France. This gal said, "Wayne Powers was a deserter. Could you tell me more about him?"
What do you know about him?
So you didn't know anything about this?
Oh, no. Of course, I just jumped in with both feet, and it took me, 2 or 3 years to get this all going, because I had to find out his right to his kids over in France, both in English and French, and Marjorie was the only one that responded back.
And then she gave us the mother lode with that.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a
this
teleplay.
really is an interesting story.
Right.
It is. So does it end here, or what?
Well, he passed away in
Well, he had
1980.
2 more children first.
Yeah, they had
He
2 more
had
children.
7 children
Well,
altogether.
So he was busy while he was under those steps
You
there.
know that. You know that.
When he got out, he went straight to the French embassy and got a citizenship, because he did not want to come back to America. And he died in 1983, and he requested to have an American flag on his grave, which his wife was able to obtain.
Right. But you should say that some of those letters were not pro letting him go. Some people were like he was a deserter. So there was a controversy.
I can
That's why
imagine,
it's an
yes.
international incident, because
Right.
there were 2 sort of
Right.
different.
Well, it makes interesting reading. It's an interesting story. Thank you for sharing it with us today. And if people want to get your book, besides the trunk of your car, where is it available?
You can get it at the State Historical Society of Missouri,
Okay.
or you can get it from the local library.
Oh, it's at the library, too. Is
Yes.
it on Amazon?
Not on Amazon.
You need to get it on there. Okay? It's called the Blue Mound Chronicles.
Right.
Joe Dillard. Brock, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming by. Pleasure having both of you here. If there's something you'd like to hear or see, I'd love to hear from you. Drop me an email. That's pepperp@missouri.edu. And when you go out and about today, be nice to each other and wear a smile on your face, just like Joe Dillard does. He's always happy. Bye-bye.